A happy Thursday morning to everyone. At least it's morning where I'm at. Now, I've got very little reason to hold up this Emperor tarot card this morning, except that it was on top of my desk, and I thought it'd be kind of cute. You'll notice that this is from the deck, the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, that Constance and I created. You'll notice that on my Emperor, we've got him associated with Aries, but we've also got Sadi, and in older decks, of course, this is usually assigned to hay. And for the hay one, I've got it turned around to assign the letter hay to the star card. And that's sort of according to Crowley's esoteric instruction. And but if you're a tarot buff and are kind of unclear why Crowley made that switch and everything else, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Just go ahead and treat the Emperor as hay and Sadi as the star until it starts to make sense. If it doesn't make sense to you, just keep that stuff in mind and make it one of those mysteries that may or may not reveal itself to you as you progress. Today, I'm going to do something from my book, Allow Me to Introduce, about tarot. Okay, and on my Facebook page, I said kind of to get ready for today's reading. If you've got tarot cards, lay them out, lay the 22 trumps out in order. A good way to lay them out, if you're getting ready to follow that suggestion, is to put the 0, the Fool card, right up at the top of your desk, and then lay the cards out in 3 rows of 7. 3 rows of 7. But anyway, before we even do that, I'd like to revisit a bit of the angle of modern tarot study in connection with psychology, in particular Jungian psychology. And a number of years ago, I went down to the Encinitas area twice a week to facilitate a class of the students were professional counselors, and I did a magic and Kabbalah and tarot class, and the class was hosted by Dr. Art Rosengarten, who I believe was the first person to get his PhD focusing on tarot and the Jungian aspects of tarot cards. And Art eventually developed his own a deck of tarot cards, very beautiful, called the Tarot of the 9 Paths. And if you can find that deck and the book that goes with it, the book is Tarot and Psychology, Spectrums of Possibility. And he was kind enough to ask me to write the foreword to that book. And it's a very short little foreword, and I'm going to share it with you today before we go on our little trip of the tarot trumps. So it starts off with 2 epigrams. One from Freud in a letter to Jung in 1913. I wish I could do a Viennese accent. It's just Poke Runyon does this quote perfectly with a perfect Viennese accent. Next time you see him, try to get him to do it. Anyway, promise me never to abandon the sexual theory. That is the most essential thing of all. You see, we must make it a dogma of it, an unshakable bulwark against the black tide of mud, occultism. And here's Jung's response to Freud. Or his comment to that, I knew that I would never be able to accept such an attitude. What Freud seemed to mean by, quote, occultism, unquote, was virtually everything that philosophy and religion, including the rising contemporary science of parapsychology, had learned about the psyche. Yeah, you. Okay. And now from the greats to Lon. For at least 5 centuries, the tarot has tenaciously survived the condemnation of church, the persecution of state, and the ridicule of academia. Long the instrument of fortune tellers and persons of dubious, if not felonious character, tarot enters the new millennium still in the guise of a fallen angel. However, unlike Milton's rebellious protagonist, the tarot now hovers dangerously close to redemption. I'm pleased, but not at all surprised, to learn that these ancient and evocative images are now attracting the serious attention of modern mental health professionals. Foremost among this is Arthur Rosengarten, Ph.D., whose provocative and thoroughly readable work is the subject of these brief words. Since the mid-19th century, adepts of Western Hermeticism have attempted to demonstrate that tarot is constructed in strict conformity with the fundamental principles of Hebrew mysticism known as Kabbalah. They asserted that the images of tarot, especially those displayed on the 22 trump cards, are visual personifications of various aspects of deity, which had been categorized with anal retentive zeal by unnamed Hebrew sages at some time in the distant past. The ancient Hebrew philosophers built upon the scriptural premise that man, capital M, humanity, was created in the image of God. Later esotericists, observing the phenomena of repeating patterns in nature and remembering the Hermetic axiom as above, so below, tended to agree, albeit with less parochial bias. They reasoned that if the images of the tarot were metaphors of aspects of divine consciousness, then it followed that they must also be reflected on the human level as key components of the psyche, archetypal citizens of the mind, which each of us share with our fellows. While I don't presume to speak with any measure of authority on matters relating to the field of psychology, I do feel somewhat qualified to speak on matters touching on Kabbalah and tarot. It's clear to me that the mystical concept of the archetypal images of the tarot is identical in essence with those of Jung's universal collective unconscious. Moreover, I firmly believe that under certain circumstances, the image of the tarot can trigger, activate, subdue, direct, or empower the specific dynamics these archetypes represent. Regrettably, few professionals are aware of the practical potential of the tarot. Few still are as yet willing to risk the condemnation of colleagues by embarking upon a course of study that would enable them to skillfully employ this tool in a therapeutic environment. A master of both disciplines, Dr. Rosengarten remains somewhat immune to such concerns. He's a pioneer in the purest sense of the word. Not only has he courageously ventured into uncharted territory, he has lingered along the way to break ground and erect landmarks for the benefit of those who will inevitably follow. Ironically, the antagonism, real or imagined, that exists between tarot and psychology parallels in many respects the fundamental differences between Eastern and Western mysticism. The Eastern mystic, by tradition and perhaps because of temperament, is taught to quietly plunge inwardly to meet the myriad facets of self on their own turf. Furthermore, to overcome the distractions of mind which hinder this inner self-communion, he or she strives with ruthless meditative fervor to virtually assassinate the harpies of thought, creating, as it were, a vacuum into which pure illumination will theoretically pour. The Western mind, on the other hand, prefers to deal objectively with subjective matters. We want to reach in, personify them, pull them out, throw them down in front of us, and have it out with them here and now. But dealing objectively with internal realities is impossible if one is unable to recognize and engage them as such. For what more perfect tool could one ask than a deck of colorful archetypal images that can be manipulated at will in nearly infinite combinations? As the author points out, and this is a quote from Dr. Rosengarten, in a typical 10-card spread, the chances of reproducing an exact duplication are simply staggering when one calculates the probability from a deck of 78 highly differentiated cards. But with tarot, a transpersonal commonality is equally brought to bear upon the human individuality and difference. This perhaps is why tarot's light shines through all quadrants of the psychological universe and may be applicable in varying degrees to diverse theoretical persuasions. The symbolic language of tarot compacts multiple levels of meaning into each card, illustration, and synchronistically, one soon learns that there are no accidents in tarot or life. Or put differently, accidents themselves are inherently meaningful. Universal themes of human experience unfold within original permutation of the tarot matrix, reflecting countless variations on common myths such as the perennial stages of human suffering and attainment, the psychological tasks and demands of human development, and the mysteries and potentials of the human spirit." Unquote. Rosengarten's landmark work spans the abyss that yawns between psychology and mysticism. Remarkably, it does so without diminishment to either art or science. Indeed, both are immeasurably enriched by his unique contributions. It's obvious that this is a work written primarily for the continuing education of mental health professionals. Certainly, it its meticulous notes, exhaustive references, bibliography, and heroic index set it apart from nearly every book on tarot ever published. Nevertheless, we of the tarot metaphysical community should welcome it with particular gratitude and interest, for it offers us a rare and entirely new look at an ancient tradition. And for your information again, that book is Tarot and Psychology, Spectrums of Possibility by Dr. Art Rosengarten. Now to our own Spectrums of Possibility. I ask you if you had a deck of tarot cards, just clear a little area and lay the 22 trumps out, and if you possibly can, put it with the 0 Fool card right up at the top, and then 3 lines of 7 in order. And don't worry about your hate Sadi switch or your strength justice switch. Put them any way you want. We'll work around it. This is something I wrote for the liner notes. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to just read the trumps. The liner notes to a 1998 record album of wonderful classic ambient music by David and Richard Gordon, the Gordon brothers. And they recorded on Sequoia Records. Their material is still available. It's wonderful ambient meditative music, and they wrote an album and recorded an album on music of the tarot and asked me to write the liner notes. And this is from those liner notes. For centuries, the beautiful and mysterious images of tarot have captivated the imagination of Western civilization. The earliest examples date from the 14th century, and it's commonly believed were introduced to Europe by nomadic gypsies who used the 78 cards as a fortune-telling device. But as modern students have discovered, tarot is much more than a parlor game. It's a living, evolving, pictorial storybook of the divine. The entire deck is structured and organized in concordance with the ancient principles of the Hebrew Kabbalah. Each card not only represents a divine aspect of nature, but visually triggers the corresponding psychic center in the human consciousness. The major arcana, the trumps. The Fool through the Lovers. Divine wisdom is foolishness to we mortals. What made the pre-existent absolute forsake the perfect bliss of nothingness in order to initiate creation? We cannot answer. We only know that the universe springs from a great zero. Appropriately, our Odyssey begins as a babe in a blue egg, or a handsome young fool, neither male nor female, gazing guilelessly into the sky before stepping off a precipice into a vast abyss. Tumbling through the void, the fool becomes the all and is transformed into a progression of archetypal characters and images. As the magus, the all has become self-conscious, directed, concentrated will. This cosmic magician functions as a conduit, transforming that which is above to that which is below. The weapons of his magic are the wand with which he creates, the cup with which he preserves, the dagger with which he destroys, and the disc with which he redeems the world. His counterpart is the high priestess. Only the virginal goddess of eternity is worthy to become the great mother of fertility. Her chaste truth is of such purity that it can only be veiled by undulating waves of light. As the magus is the will of creation, the high priestess is the idea. The union of the magus and the high priestess transforms them both, she into the empress, the great mother goddess, gate of all life, and he into the emperor, lord of patriarchal power, imperious director of energy. His marriage to the empress is of primary importance to the governance of the cosmos, for their child, the Hierophant, will unite the macrocosm, the world of the gods, with the microcosm, the world of humanity. He is the God-man, symbol of human evolution in the new age, when each of us must be responsible for our own spiritual destiny. That which is above is united and harmonized in each individual with that which is below. There is no bond that can unite the divided but love. And in the Lover's card, all of the previous tarot characters achieve their synthesis. Ecstasy dissolves the illusion of separateness. Through the thundering silence comes the oracle of the gods. Part 2, the chariot through temperance or art. Riding as a triumphant king, the knight of the Holy Grail conveys the precious secret of life in a starry canopied chariot. The blood is the life, cosmic equivalent of evolving DNA, carried by the charioteer through a sea of infinite generations. The process of creation finds the perfect partner in the manifest goddess of adjustment or justice. With her golden scales, she equilibrates all energies, forces, and principles. Against the feather of her perfect truth, she weighs the heart of humanity. The hermit stands upon his lonely mountain and gives his light to the world. It's also he who descends to the underworld of our subconscious, and if we allow him, will guide us to the celestial heavens of superconsciousness. From this spiritual vantage point, we see the cyclic nature of creation, an ever-changing, ever-increasing, ever-diminishing wheel of fortune. The power which turns the wheel is the primal, undirected strength or lust of solar energy, symbolized by a beautiful goddess astride a great lion. It is she who now bears the Holy Grail. The still blue waters that suspend the fool as a babe also serve to reflect. Is it you, or is it the hanged man who is upside down? His self-sacrifice is not an occasion for mourning. Death is life itself. The caterpillar dies to become the butterfly. The maiden dies to become the mother. Without the great transformer, there can be no new beginnings. A royal marriage. The alchemical union of opposites is celebrated in the temperance card or the art card. Male and female, sun and moon are conjoined to create the elixir of life. Fire is poured upon water and water upon fire to produce the rainbow seal of a divine covenant. Part 3, The Devil Through the Universe. All matter is born from the blending of darkness and light. The fearsome appearance of the devil projects the illusion that we are hopelessly enmeshed in material existence. But the material world is our school, not our prison. Ignorance and superstition are the true devils that would bind the human spirit. So long as our eyes are closed, we remain in darkness. Old fears and attitudes must be destroyed like a lightning-struck tower. Once illusion is annihilated, true meditation can begin, and illumination arises within like a star. Like images in our dreams, the moon is a portrait of our shifting unconscious. She appears to shine, but merely reflects the light. She appears to change shape, yet that's only her ever-changing position to the sun. The true symbol of life, light, love, and liberty. Our ancestors, in their ignorance, saw the sun as a dying god, sacrificed daily and yearly, only to resurrect each morning and each spring. So deeply ingrained was this image that we believed ourselves also subject to death. A death that required continual, elaborate rituals to assure our life after death. In older tarot decks, this process was portrayed in the card called the Last Judgment. With this new aeon, however, has come the dawn of a new consciousness. We know that the sun does not die, nor does it need to be resurrected. Night, winter, and death are all illusions. A simple shifting of a shadow. Our spiritual identity has now shifted from the earth to the sun. As we close the cycle of trumps by taking our proper place in the universe, dancing like the divine fool in the center of the belt of the zodiac, ready to withdraw once again into nothingness. Okay, again, the liner notes to the music of Tarot by the Gordon Brothers. From Allow Me to Introduce, Insider's Guide to the Occult. And that's our Thursday talk for today. I hope you've enjoyed that, and that you'll be with us tomorrow. I know I promised you a haircut and a beard trim yesterday. Perhaps I'll get it today, if I'm good. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.